who is my favorite comic book artist. And I mentioned this earlier, John Romita Jr. He's been drawing comics almost as long as I've been reading comics. He started really young, and if you look at his early stuff, looks a lot like his dad's work, which is understandable. And then sometime in the mid-'80s, God, he just like went out of his mind and, kind of really evolved into his own style, and he's never looked back. And God, he can draw anything. And I sometimes wish he would do something out of Marvel, but I understand why he stays in Marvel. But God, he really, he's drawn superhero action and Neil Gaiman's The Eternals and the Spider-Man World Trade Center story. He can't do any wrong. I just love his work. And what comic book character would you compare yourself with? I think the Ted Kord Blue Beetle. Every time I read him in a story, I go, oh, that's how I'd be. He's kind of a jokey guy. He has kind of a complex when he's around people much better than him. And he occasionally has weight problems. I love that guy. And I'm sorry he's dead. And I also like Sherman from Box Office Poison. That character is a lot like me, except a little more bitter and dumber. But he and I are pretty close. I remember when I first fell in love with the Box Office Poison book. He works in a bookstore at the same time I was working at a Barnes & Noble. And there was a 2-page spread of him getting stupid questions from customers, and I am not lying. I got 80% of those questions in real life. It's amazing what people will ask you if you work at a bookstore. So yeah, I kind of feel a lot like those two characters. Now, Earth 1Q, let me just, oh yeah, here we go. Let's see. When DC Comics released the number to call and kill off Jason Todd, were you one of the people who called in? No. I had just got back into comics right after he was killed off, so I did not get the opportunity, although I would have. Let's see. How could you or would you fix the Spider-Man comics? Now this is interesting. As complicated as it might be, it was all started with a wish, and Mephisto snapping his fingers and making everybody forget and making people alive and shit like that. It's that easy to fix it back. Mephisto, for instance, can just be Mephisto and just take it all back for the hell of it. Spider-Man occasionally fights him, so if he gets pissed off, maybe he might snap his fingers, everybody knows who he is, his aunt's dead, and we got a whole new situation to deal with. But that's just me. Let's see. What is the worst comic you have ever read? And I could, like the movie question, I could make a whole channel dedicated to the worst comics ever made. In 70 years, there's been thousands of bad comics. I could be like the angry comic book nerd and just, change my whole gimmick here. But instead, I'll just go for horrifically disappointing, and that is Spawn Batman War Devil. I love Frank Miller, and I was cooling on Todd McFarlane, but I still really loved his art. But the combo was not great, and it's a dumb story, but I don't know, it reads well, but it's so not what I was expecting, so I'm not a big fan. And let's see, let's go to this face. Do you have any rare comic books? And believe it or not, with all this shit behind me, not very many. I basically collect what I like, so a lot of stuff I like really isn't that collectible. And I don't really have enough money to really get anything too expensive. But there are some stuff, sometimes I do luck out. And I have the first appearance of Elektra over in Daredevil. And I have Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is the first full Venom. So I guess those are probably the closest I have. Let's see. If I have any really expensive ones, it's, I don't know. I had a friend who had the last issue of the Marvel Star Wars and had no idea it was worth money until I just looked in the book and just said, hey, you know that book is like $50. She about shit her pants when I said that to her. Alright, blow himself up, dude. I was wondering if you like riff tracks as much as MST3K. I don't like breathing as much as MST3K. Riff tracks, I actually started to kind of answer your question. You've asked me about riff tracks before, and I kind of sort of answered it, but let me get into detail here. I really like what Mike's done with riff tracks, where he's figured out a way to get around the rights of working with movies to make fun of. And of course, like, the writing is always funny with him. It's usually Kevin and Bill, but sometimes it's guests. And they've done a great job with some movies. It's just the problem is, I don't like the whole getting something and lining it up and making tracks, making sure the tracks work together. I understand they're going to be selling some of the riff tracks that are public domain, much like the cinematic Titanics. So that's cool. And also, Mike and company have been making fun of good movies, like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Dark Knight. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, they can't make fun of those movies, they're great, how dare they? No, they're up for parody just as any other movie. It's just, riffing, I don't know, to me, this is me personally, maybe other people might feel differently, but riffing to me works best when the movie is goofy or stupid or bad. Because I think if the movie's too good, then it kind of steals the thunder out of the riffing. Like, you keep paying attention more to the movie. But that's just a personal feeling. So, I do enjoy the riff track thing, but, I mean, it's MST3K. I mean, come on. Alright. And, let's see. Channel 23, ha 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 ha. If you could have any superpower in the world besides flying, which would or they be? And shapeshifter. What the fuck? It's a sneaky kind of superpower, and you can probably get yourself out of situations pretty easily if you're a shapeshifter. What's the most influential comic book writer to you? And I was just talking about writers, and I'd say Neil Gaiman and Peter David. I think if you were to read any of my work, you'd see a lot of Neil Gaiman and Peter David in it, just based on character and story and the way they structure story. I think they're really masters at it. And let's see. Let's see. What's your style of writing? And I actually did answer this earlier. It's hard. Right now it's hard. Could be anything next week. If you could work with any artist, who would it be? Anyone. I'd work with any fucking artist. If you're out there, if you're an artist, give me a call. I'll work with you. I'm not picky. I'm like Christopher Walken with movie parts. You give me a call, I'll do it. Alright. And let's see. And finally, if you had the ability to transport yourself into a movie, which movie would you pick? And I gave this a little thought. And I think My Dinner with Andre. Why the fuck would I want to be in a horror movie, an action movie where I get fucking killed? I'd rather, like, have dinner with Andre and have a nice meal and talk about politics and the world and philosophy and just relax. I don't want to be, like, shot by aliens or blown up. That's pretty much where that'd be a good movie to teleport into.